Welcome. My name is Maëva Ghonda, and I'm delighted that you're able to join us for NIST Cybersecurity Career Week. This special celebration aims to advance cybersecurity education as well as workforce development. And today's special panel discussion is titled Building and Educating the Nation's Cybersecurity Workforce in the Age of Quantum and AI. As many of you know, this summer, on July 31st, the Biden-Harris administration released the first of its kind National Cyber Workforce and Education Strategy. Therefore, today's panel discussion is centered on the essential pillars of our National Cyber Workforce and Education Strategy. Our hope is that we'll help you develop a solid understanding of how to build and educate the nation's cybersecurity workforce for the benefit of our economic security, as well as our national security. So before we get started, I'd like to add a few words to my welcome remarks. A secure cyberspace will be the strength of our nation. We must therefore proactively defend our nation from the endless barrage of cyber attacks with a well-trained cyber workforce. The rise of new technologies and other forces, such as quantum computing and artificial intelligence, as well as many different forms of digital transformation initiatives, have the potential to revolutionize the way we live and work in many favorable ways. However, they also have the potential to be used for malicious intent. We must therefore ensure that this important talent pool has the right education and the right skills to protect our nation's critical infrastructure, our institutions or businesses, and of course, our personal data. So we'll review a few key topics today, such as the skills and knowledge that cyber professionals need in the age of quantum and AI. We'll also discuss how to expand this important talent pool and how to diversify our nation's cyber workforce. We'll also discuss the important role of government and industry in supporting and strengthening the nation's cybersecurity workforce. However, before we dive in, I'll briefly introduce today's esteemed speakers. First, I will introduce Ayan Islam. Ayan is a director of cyber workforce at the Office of National Cyber Director at the White House, and she supported the development of the National Cyber Workforce and Education Strategy. Previously, she was the Associate Policy Director for Our Street's Cybersecurity and Emerging Threats team. She has also worked at CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency within the Department of Homeland Security, where she was the Critical Infrastructure Portfolio Lead. And next, I'll introduce Skip Sanzeri. Skip is the chair of the board of directors and the co-founder and COO at QuSecure, a leading post-quantum cybersecurity company which is headquartered in California. Skip started his entrepreneurial career at age 26 when he founded, funded, and built Gold's Gyms, which were acquired by 24 Hour Fitness. After this fantastic accomplishment, Skip joined Quote.com, backed by Sequoia Capital, which was acquired by Lycos. He's also the famous author of Quantum Design Sprint. Now I will introduce Sebastian Banescu. Sebastian is the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Chainproof, the world's first regulated cybersecurity insurance policies for smart contracts and decentralized finance. He's also head of Quantstamp Germany, the global leader in blockchain cybersecurity. And to date, Quantstamp has secured over $200 billion in digital asset risk. He has a PhD in computer science from the Technical University of Munich. And prior to joining Quantstamp, Sebastian worked as a cybersecurity specialist with large enterprises such as BMW, Philips, and Deloitte. Ayan, Skip, Sebastian, welcome, and thank you so very much once again for graciously joining today. So before we get started, I'd like to give you all a few minutes. If you could take up to 5 minutes to briefly, cover, basically provide a brief opening remarks and maybe discuss your career journey, how you got to cybersecurity. Skip, would you like to start?
Happy to, Maëva. Thank you so much. So, we'll start with some of the history. So, I had moved out of years ago out of the health club business into technology, and stayed there largely from the marketing and finance side, with also some time in venture capital as well. And so I always had, kept an eye on advanced technologies to see what was coming next. And about 6-7 years ago, I started looking at quantum computing and the power that had and the promise it had, and also the reasons why we need it. The chipsets that we use now that are the CMOS style, that's all the zeros and ones that we're used to, those ones are running out of steam. The efficiencies aren't there anymore. And the folks like Intel, AMD, and others are doing everything they can to try to make those chips faster. But it's pretty clear if we want to move into more advanced technologies like AI and others, we're going to need additional forms of compute that do things specifically different. Quantum computers are different. They operate on subatomic properties. We won't go into all that today, but happy to educate anybody on that. But the real thing that people need to know is these computers can handle multivariate calculations. So if you think about problem sets with a lot of variables, like AI is one of those. And everybody's familiar with that now, thanks to ChatGPT. But true AI, needs a lot of processing power, and our regular computers just are going to struggle with keeping up with that. If you think of things like genomics, protein folding, chemistry and material science, aeronautical design, logistics and optimization, weather prediction. These are all things where you're having to handle millions and millions of variables. Quantum computers, because the way they process it, can do that. But what became clear a few years ago was that before these computers would be online with enough power to bring the application sets that we need and to help humanity, that people are going to use these as weapons. And that's exactly what we're seeing. We've seen nation states put billions of dollars into quantum computers designed to break encryption. One of the key aspects of quantum computing is the ability to handle what they call global minimums. And in that case, think of something like factoring large numbers, where you want to find two prime numbers that factor into a larger number. And that's a difficult thing. That's how we do cybersecurity today. All of our public key encryption is based on factoring. Quantum is going to be really good at that, and it's coming along nicely. And nation states are pouring billions of dollars into doing this. They're coming up with very clever ways to speed things up. There's something called Shor's algorithm, which says 4,100 qubits will crack encryption, RSA 2048. But we are seeing now that there's a lot of concern well prior to that big machine coming on board. There's a lot of ways to solve it. So we founded QuSecure, and the idea was to look at how we can help deploy advanced encryption, like the NIST standard algorithms, deploy those through the network. And that's what QuSecure does today. We move all of those algorithms out to the network, to the edge, to IoT, even to satellites, to make sure that that can get deployed quickly and easily, so that we can put this great encryption in place prior to these other machines coming online. Make no mistake, this is an existential threat. Whoever comes online with enough power can shut down energy grids, kill financial systems. We did a report with Hudson Institute. One single quantum attack on our federal banking system would cause $2 trillion in damage. That's an existential event for the United States. So these things are, we need to bolster our cybersecurity. In December of last year, Biden signed into law HR 7535, which says all federal is upgrading to post-quantum cyber. They're starting the process of assessment. They're moving that direction. So we're all in on that and trying to help. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Ayan, would you like to go next, please?
Thank you for having me here, and also for sharing the fact that the National Cyber Workforce and Education Strategy was launched in July 31st. Just to provide a little bit of scene setting, the National Cyber Workforce and Education Strategy would not have happened if it weren't for the President's National Cybersecurity Strategy that was launched and signed and released in March of this year. There was a call to action requiring that we needed to have a pivot, calling on all responsible actors to take charge when it comes to securing our nation and ensuring that the responsibility of those who have ownership of those equities, whether it's government, also to industry, and likewise also on the education side of the house, and ensuring that we also have the adequate investments in place for it. And so as a result, just as Skip mentioned, the importance and value of securing all aspects of our technology stack, because that is intricately tied to every aspect of our society and tied to critical infrastructure. And so under Pillar 4, creating a secure and resilient future, within the National Cybersecurity Strategy, there was a call out requiring that Office of National Cyber Director works jointly with federal departments and agencies, as well as industry, academia, and stakeholders in developing a national cyber and workforce education strategy, recognizing that we cannot address our technology issues until we also have the appropriate talent in place, and that there has been a dire need and call for such talent to help address and defend the many aspects of our technology space. And it's not only defending, it's also looking and recognizing that we also have innovative talent that are building and creating amazing sets of technologies, tools, and capabilities that increase our day-to-day lives and create efficiencies, matters of convenience. For example, as Skip mentioned earlier, there's all the benefits that we're seeing with the combination of quantum computing and AI. We're seeing faster processing of like financial banking information, as well as transfers and also data information across the world when we're communicating with each other, just as we are in real time here. But the reality is that how do we ensure that we have this talent constantly coming into this field, supporting the development, but also having a security mindset as well, recognizing that we're going to have a lot of interconnected tissue across the board. So with the National Cyber and Workforce Education Strategy, and thanks to everyone's input through the multiple requests for information and working sessions that we had prior to the launch, we developed the strategy keeping in mind that there were 3 guiding imperatives that we learned from multiple discussions. That one key aspect is we have to leverage an ecosystem approach. It is going to be a whole of society requiring multiple players and actors who actually hold multiple levers from education, K through 12, through 2-year, 4-year, and postgraduate institutions, the training providers, as well as employers who do also have the capacity to upskill, reskill, and train the employees and bring the talent in, to as well as government. Government is also an employer too, state and local, federal, and cannot forget the training mechanisms that they have there as well, and that there is also a need to ensure that we're strengthening and bolstering our federal cyber workforce and ensuring that we have the technical talent to not only defend our internal network enterprise, but also to provide advisement to the number of critical infrastructure stakeholders who rely on us for a number of, whether it's threat information sharing and understanding what the landscape is looking like, to providing the funding and investments that help spur local economies and create economies of scale and opportunities for startups to thrive, and also to fill the gaps where they may find possible, and to essentially educate. One of the key things that we are pushing also with the strategy is we want to enable lifelong learning of cyber skills development, and recognizing that it can't just be for a few. It has to be for everybody across the board. We want to ensure that there is a diverse and inclusive and accessible aspect to cyber skills, seeing that technology is critically intertwined into our day-to-day lives, and that it is also including those in underserved and underrepresented communities. So the more we are able to train up our citizens and residents and the populace that are here, the more likelihood we will also have an ability of increasing not only technology innovation, but also increasing the security mindset as well. So really appreciate the opportunity here, because from a personal viewpoint, and as you mentioned earlier, coming from CCW, one of the many things that I've recognized through multiple projects, both through CCW and also extracurricular, as well as volunteer in the community, is that there's not many of us. When we are, we're constantly looking for more colleagues to join the good fight and ensure that we're not also experiencing burnout. Because when these incidents come, they're fast, they're furious, they're many, and the truth is also, we also need to ensure that we're creating that pipeline, like where from a overall broader workforce strategic planning, that we're considering the early career to the mid-career to the senior, and ensuring that that cycle is constantly moving and flowing, whether it's rotating from government to private sector and back, sharing and exchanging great information. That is where, from my personal story and vantage point, and seeing this is also personal for me, because I've seen the path in that where a non-traditional, unorthodox, non-cybersecurity person having to pivot into this field and now helping make a difference is testament to the fact that there are also many others who have similar stories, and we have different paths that we've come into the field, and want to recognize that, if we're all in here and we've come in through different channels, that there is opportunities for us to bring our diverse skill set, as well as our knowledge and our talent, to help defend the nation, and as well as ensuring that we are all protected and having career opportunities moving forward. So thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Ayan. Sebastian?
Thanks, Maëva. Really appreciate the invitation on this panel. I'm very humbled to be in the company of Skip and Ayan. Myself, I got into cybersecurity, back during my bachelor's, when I started working on random number generators, and I just fell in love with the whole space. And continued all of my studies afterwards in the same direction. I then started looking into something where I can get my hands dirty, and my first job was as a web application pen tester at Deloitte. So that was more than a decade ago, and the resources that we had available at that time to learn this kind of trade were not at the same level as they are today. I do appreciate that so many people around the world have put in a lot of effort into creating new resources in the form of videos and interactive tutorials where you can learn cybersecurity, both in traditional enterprise, non-quantum, non-AI things. This start led me down a rabbit hole a few years later, which is this new technology called blockchain, which appeared a few years ago. It's fairly nascent compared to anything else that we've been talking about so far. Like cryptography is well established compared to things like blockchain, as well as security. So in this space, what intrigued me was the fact that any small mistake, any bug in the code could lead to direct financial loss in the form of digital assets. And it was, again, I think, like Ayan mentioned it, when incidents happen, they're very fast, and they, don't give you a chance to, digest what is going on. You're basically caught after the fact trying to do the forensic analysis in figuring out what the attacker has done. And one thing that we're recognizing in this new space is that there's definitely need for more education, more materials, because it's a new technology. Right now, it's definitely not part of critical infrastructure, but it might be someday, depending on how things go. There are many discussions around the world about having a digital currency, like a digital dollar, a digital whatever, name your currency. And central banks are basically investing in this technology. So we might see it becoming part of the core infrastructure in a few years. I joined Quantstamp in the early phases of the company, right after it was founded. And my hope there was to protect this new space, right? The mission of the company is to secure what we like to call the next generation of the web, so Web 3.0, right? Web 3. This is one term that you're going to hear quite often in this space. Of course, nowadays, I think even more recently, people have been also calling it the metaverse. It's basically code which is running on the blockchain from my perspective, right? The blockchain is just a virtual machine like any other. It's way slower and more costly, but it's a machine, it runs code. And what we want to do is help people, educate people in making fewer mistakes when they develop such systems, help them with tooling to identify bugs, and to help them with a security assessment of such systems. So that's why we've been doing several engagements with many of these startups. And more recently, just last year, we realized there was a huge need for cyber insurance in this space, in this particular niche space of Web3. And we've created an insurance carrier for this particular risk. And the basis of the underwriting has to do with the kind of security assessments that we're doing at Quantstamp. Thanks again for having me. That's it from my side.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for those opening remarks. So I'd like to start with pillar one of the strategy: equip every American with foundational cyber skills. So we'll briefly start with this discussion on building a cybersecurity workforce in the age of quantum and AI. So let's start with Skip. What new skills and knowledge do you believe cybersecurity professionals need in this new age of quantum and AI?
Thanks, Maëva. I think they need to learn AI attack vectors. AI has come on the scene unbelievably fast. I've been through a few AI cycles. I'm the oldest on the call. I'm like 98 years old. But we saw AI in the 80s and 90s, and it was just kind of like it wasn't AI. And now with the way the ChatGPT has come about, it's allowing all sorts of new attack vectors. So, and a lot of these come around impersonation. So, that what they can do is they can use ChatGPT to create well-written phishing emails. Before you could kind of find them because they wouldn't be that well written, and you kind of go, it doesn't look right. Now they're perfectly well written. They can do graphics perfectly. They can also inject words into websites that the ChatGPT and those bots will pick up that change how things operate, so they can disrupt or. So I think the most important thing these days is number one. I appreciate the effort. We need many more people into this. So, but I think the AI piece, learning about how all of the new vectors will evolve, would be super important. So that would be my first response.
Thank you very much. Ayan, would you like to add to this?
So I'm currently in the process of learning from many subject matter experts such as Gibbs, Sebastian, and others that are having to tackle this day in, day out. Yes, we're definitely in need of individuals that have an understanding of threat attack vectors. We're also in desperate need of folks with data analytic skill sets and the ability to also look at information and help analyze it. Then there's, of course, a lot of a talk of having specialists to help with the natural language processing systems as well. Are we going to have the ability for linguists, those with special, like also writing skills to ensure with the prompts, right, that we're putting in the right directions and guidance, but then also on the back end, from a security perspective, making sure that these systems are not being prompted to create or created, with malicious intent, right? And that it's creating like a negative outcomes. So the number of skills that we're seeing is like vast and ranges not only from a security perspective, but also looking at the fundamentals. Like, do we have folks who are going to have that ability to look at use cases and understand, I'm creating an innovative technology, having those fundamental skill sets of critical thinking and analysis, but then also considering the realities of, could a bad guy, like, or person, right, take this tool and use it for what was originally unintended consequence and create unintended consequences. So those are a couple of things that we're looking at for across the space. And also we're trying to analyze currently within federal government, what are the sort of skills that we need. A lot of them are looking at a variety of both security, heavy on data scientists, data analysts as well. But recognizing that there may be opportunities for others to get upskilled into that area too.
Thank you, Ayan. Sebastian?
Yeah, I think those were some very good points. I don't have too much to add, but one thing that I realized is very useful nowadays is actually prompt engineering. You see people using ChatGPT, and sometimes due to improper prompts, they might be wasting some time because they could actually just do it themselves without using ChatGPT faster. If you have a proper, training regarding prompt engineering when it comes to, these kind of technologies, I think you could become, 10 times better than average and what you can offer. So there's this myth of a 10x engineer or a 10x security professional, right? People just assume that if you start using something like ChatGPT or anything similar, you can become 10 times better. This only happens if you have proper training regarding prompt engineering. This is on the AI side, right? On the quantum side, I strongly believe that many people are still maybe unaware that the systems that they're building now that are using non-quantum resistant cryptography could become obsolete or vulnerable in just a few years. So one thing that should really be done is more education and promotion of quantum resistant ciphers and cryptography in general.
Thank you, Sebastian. Now we'll touch on pillar 2, which is of the strategy, which is transform cyber education. So we'll focus on cybersecurity workforce education, again, within the context of the fact that we're living in the age of quantum and AI. So I'd like to ask, so what role do each of you believe government and industry should play in order to help advance the development, in order to strengthen our cyber workforce in the nation? Would like to go first. Sebastian?
I don't mind.
Oh, Ayan, thank you.
Now I'll let Sebastian go first if you want to. Okay, so I'll jump in.
It's
So
okay.
one, yeah, I'll jump in to share that. Um, uh, in terms of the roles and responsibilities, it's particularly on education. If we're looking at um, uh, spurring and incentivizing and ensuring that there's general awareness and also an appreciation for the fact that this field is in existence and also as a future career opportunity. This is where having close relationships and building with state and local governments is going to be critical because they have a huge tie-in and provide a lot of investments, and also the curriculum requirements when it comes to K through 12 and spurring STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. I would also say that there's also in some areas like an effort to promote STEAM, the A's for arts, because that's where the ingenuity and the creativity comes into place. So how do we get the younger generation to realize that there's all these technologies around them and that they actually can actually play a role in the future as a potential career and spur them. So when they do go to a community college or a four-year institution and then also proceed to get postgraduate education, what's going to be important for higher education institutions writ large is, are they having close communications with employers? And conversely, are employers sharing their requirements with higher education institutions to keep them apprised as to what are the changes that are happening in the market, the workforce demands, and the skills that are going to be required? Because there are a lot of conversations in terms of how can institutions be more nimble and responsive to industry needs, but also that requires a two-way conversation. Are they aware of what the current needs are, what the gaps may be currently today, and also for tomorrow, and staying ahead, seeing that there is a multi-year pipeline approach. Then from a government perspective, also from federal, there are multiple supports. There's National Science Foundation, also multiple areas under the National Initiative for Cyber Security Education, NICE, which is under NIST, and as well as multiple departments and agencies that provide grants and various incentives to help spur particularly education institutions to partner with community colleges, community-based organizations, training providers, to create those local ecosystems and help ensure that there is that spur and interconnectivity for providing educational and training pipelines.
Ayan, I have a follow-up question. The requirements that you mentioned, that's a fantastic remark. I'm wondering, is there a program that exists to capture these requirements, or a platform where employers can supply this pertinent information for the benefit of our cyber workforce?
That's an excellent question. So right now, that's where we're having multiple conversations across the board to understand where are those skills and what's captured and required. There is under Department of Labor a skills repository called ONET that has like a general list that's typically tied to different current occupations. Then also, one I would recommend folks to keep an eye on the NICE Cyber Workforce Framework, because it's undergoing a refresh, and we'll also have the latest and greatest in terms of what are the various competencies and the skills that will be necessary to stay apprised as to, are you, let's say, an incident responder that is happening to also touch on AI systems and having to analyze those forensically in case an incident occurs. Same for if you're like the security architecture. So those types of frameworks would be super beneficial for those to like take a look at if they're interested in understanding generally like what skills are going to be required today and also moving forward.
Thank you very much for your thoughts on that. So Skip and Sebastian, do either of you have thoughts on an innovative way to capture those requirements? You're both great employers. So do you have any thoughts that could be beneficial for this purpose?
I mean, I think that especially with AI education, and I think what Ayan was saying earlier about STEM, and we are nothing but becoming more technological every day. I mean, you think of the digital footprints. I mean, everything we do is digital. I mean, try going off the grid for a day. You can't, right? Try not using Waze. Try not going to a website. Try not using Amazon. Try not commuting. So, to me, it's ingrained. And like, if you look at what China's doing, China's teaching AI now in middle school. And they're doing it for a reason, because they want that workforce educated on these tools and on this. It's almost not even technology in a sense, because it's becoming part of life, right? And so I would say that, and I'm not an education expert, but I'd say we have to start looking at the educational system and understand the value of teaching things like AI, more computer science, and more STEM, because it's everything we do. And you talk about jobs and the rest of it. I mean, a lot of jobs will be outsourced by AI and other things, but as we move forward, there are going to be plenty of jobs. Sebastian mentioned data science. These are I think need to be core curriculum. I mean, I like history, certainly, geography, mathematics, they're all great, literature, but this needs to be a core component, and I think it needs to be mandatory. It's got to be mandated. It can't be electives. Those would be my thoughts here.
Thank you very much.
On my side. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
When we were, at the university, I was doing my PhD. I was a teaching assistant. I was fortunate enough to be tasked with coming up with a new teaching method for a security course. We really thought hard about how did we learn security when it was, just about tutorials on the internet and no college courses, right? And the best way we were able to learn was actually through something which is called a capture the flag competition, where you actually need to, it's like a game. It's education gamified, right? You need to sort of play either the good guy or the bad guy, and either break into a system or secure it such that someone can't break into it. And you're, under pressure. You're left sort of on your own to figure things out, right? And this was the fastest way we could learn, right? So when we came up with the course, we said, okay, let's do it that way. And we basically gamified this semester-long course, where we split the whole mass of students, which were a few hundred, into small groups, and each group needed to build their own system, right, independent of the others. And this was the first phase. In the second phase, all of these students, they switched systems, and they needed to break into each other's system. And this created so much enthusiasm and fun. Everyone was extremely excited about these phases, right? The next phase was, of course, fixing the issues that others had found in your system. And finally, the last phase was, again, people trying, again, switching and trying to break in again and learn, lessons learned at the end and so on. So this had the effect that, everyone who was interested in cybersecurity at the Technical University of Munich wanted to take this course, right? And people were like talking about it. We got, we actually received the prize for best, teaching method from the university during that year, because they had never seen this much enthusiasm and interest from students before. So that was like one way which I think, even the government and industry could work together to put these kind of more practical education programs, where you actually test. You don't just learn, but you actually test your knowledge. by, you know, either being a red team or a blue team.
Thank you very much. Ayan, you made a great point earlier about lifelong learning. I've experienced some of the challenges of creating programs for lifelong learners. I launched one a few years ago, which I was fortunate enough to license to IEEE. However, without a sponsor, a financial sponsor, it's incredibly hard to provide free courses literally to the world. I made sure the courses were free, accessible. I had great instructors, great people come in, from Dr. John Martinis to people from IBM, Microsoft. I had practitioners come in and actually teach the courses. However, like I said, I discovered that I can confirm that there's a huge need for it. When I'm on LinkedIn now, I'm always in awe to actually see the certificates that people earn through my program. However, like I said, without huge investment, like I could not have done it alone. So I'm wondering, what does the panel think? How could we creatively solve that puzzle? Because this is a whole nation approach, right, as far as the strategy. So how do we tackle the reality of that financial element? Because the desire is there, right? I recognize that when I look around, I don't see, you know, many that look exactly like me in cybersecurity, or even when I looked in quantum, which is why I had launched this certificate education program for the workforce. But like I said, having gone through that experience, I do it out of passion, right? It's free, so I don't get paid for it. But however, without a sponsor, it's simply not possible. So how can we try to solve that puzzle? Yeah, as it relates to, you know, government and industry collaboration to help drive this forward. Because I agree that it's of huge importance. Yeah, technology changes rapidly. Threats are nonstop. You don't know what's coming next. So yeah, any thoughts you guys could provide on how we could, yeah, solve that issue? Thank you so much.
I can start if you want. This is actually something I've seen recently. In 2021, there was a surge in the need for security experts in the space that I'm working in, and there were simply not enough people there. So employers that wanted to hire security experts were just at a loss, just simply could not find the experts out there. So those employers actually worked together with an education company and sponsored the education company to come up with a program that would be free for all the participants. So the participants didn't need to pay a cent to get into it. They started off with a large amount of people, thousands of people. And due to the fact that they needed to submit very hard assignments on a weekly basis, this number, of course, shrank down to probably, in the order of 100 or less than 100 within a few weeks. But, the good thing about that was, even though at the beginning it was hard to cover thousands of people, in the end, at the end of this program, you ended up with some very high quality individuals that were able to be hired almost immediately after they graduated this 6-month program. And like I said, this program was effectively free for the participants. All of the funding was offered by employers who could simply not find the necessary talent on the market, right? And if we're talking about, very specialized things that are needed in terms of AI security, of quantum security, I can imagine there's not enough specialists out there, and there might be employers who are interested in funding these kind of programs for those as well.
Thank you, Sebastian. Skip, do you have anything to add to this discussion?
Absolutely. I think Sebastian's spot on. I think it's a matter of some corporate sponsorship tied in with what I like are the online learning platforms. I mean, if you think of everything from YouTube to Khan Academy, Coursera, there's a lot of free education. There's more free education out there now than there ever has been. The key, I think, is to make it programmatic. So putting some dollars to it for advertising and putting some dollars to it for certification, right? So that there's an end result that's bona fide. Because people are really going to do education for two reasons. One is because it's practical, right? I can get a job, I can get paid more, I can move up a career chain. The other is for curiosity, which is I just want to learn about this because I'm very curious. Either way, I think a combination of some corporate money with those platforms to put together programs and then have something on the other side incentive-wise, have those same corporates on the other side waiting for those graduates, right? Waiting for those people to get certified, because I think Sebastian's right. If we can certify and we can churn out people that have this education and they know there are jobs on the other side, they'll do it, right? And the corporates will do it because they can line up, more and more of the workforce. It's absolutely necessary, but those would be a few ideas to start. The other I go back to again is let's put the curriculum in middle school and high school and start teaching it there so people get used to it and learn. I also read South Korea by 2025 as a mandate, they're going to have AI in middle school as well. So again, these are the things that we all know it's absolutely necessary with the digital footprints that we have and how the world is seemingly getting worse out there. Cyber attacks, whether it's disruptive, whether it's to steal money or IP, it's just a bigger footprint now. It's just more and more capability to cause harm. And I think we have to look at this as the best way for us to keep our privacy, and then at the same time also keep nation states out of our, out of all of our networks, and keep our nation and allies secure.
Yeah, I
Thank you
couldn't
very
agree
much.
more. I
Thank you
couldn't
very
agree
much.
more. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to add to both Skip and Sebastian's excellent points that it really does go a long way when an employer is collaborating closely with an education platform or an institution and serving as a sponsor. It also goes a long way when an employer is also partnering with organizations that are either tied to a specific specialty or even communities. We're starting to see also a lot of different affinity groups such as Latinas in Cyber, ACs, Blacks in Cyber, women in cybersecurity, women in cyber-jitsu. You list the name, it goes on and on, that are slowly starting to also have and have had partnerships with training providers such as SANS Institute, as well as many others, and just to name, just kind of like throw a couple of examples there, just for reference and to share that those partnerships do go a long way in having, as you rightly said, having one, like a corporate sponsor to help support the development of those programs, and then two, partnering it with different organizations who can then create that outreach to the community to say, look at these programs that are on a Coursera, on a Khan Academy, or on these various platforms that are readily available and accessible, free to low cost to different communities. I think, and also, for example, we're also pushing for more access of resources to veterans, military spouses. It's neurodivergent communities. There's so many types of resources out there also, but it also comes to awareness. Sometimes there's a disconnect where the programs are there, but the public doesn't realize that it's available. Or corporate sponsors are interested in sponsoring, but they don't know who to sponsor. So having conversations like this also helps go a long way in helping bridge the divide and showcasing that there are different examples. Sometimes it can be nationally, sometimes it can be locally. But what we've seen here from Office of National Cyber Directors when we have conversations with various stakeholders is that the examples and partnerships that both Skip and Sebastian mentioned do go a long way in creating the changes that we need and affording more learning opportunities for others to break into the field and be part of the fight with us.
Thank you very much. So I have a follow-up question. For Skip, you made a great point about corporate sponsorships. Part of the reason why I partnered with IEEE was because I wanted to make sure that learners don't only get certificates, but I wanted the equivalent of CEU credits, professional, so that it's marketable to, so that it's attractive to employers, so that they could grab a certificate, but also, and for engineers in certain professions that require that they earn a certain amount of credits, you know, on a certain frequency, whether it's annually. I wanted to make sure that option was there too. So I'm curious as to what, from a corporation perspective, what would organizations that offer free education literally globally to anyone who wants it like me, what would be attractive to corporate sponsors as it relates to this discussion? Because like I said, I partnered with a nonprofit in the past because I really wanted to make sure I needed the backing of an organization with 400,000 professionals, because I understood that I needed financial strength. But from a company, what would be attractive and appealing to you as it relates to partnering with organizations that are doing this? What would you, what would be beneficial for a company?
I mean, the most selfish thing is to have access to the graduates, to the certificate holders, because, you know, as a any corporate, you know, group, any organization, or even a startup like us, venture backed, highly competitive, right? Speed is our advantage. That means the faster that we can get the right people on board and we can execute, we create value, right, for all of our customers and our stakeholders. So to have access to the folks that are in the program, almost like you know, a pocket listing or pre-access before the world got to know. So the advantage would be the corporation funds, and then they can work with the students as they graduate, and they can make offers or do interviews right with those folks before everyone else, you know, before they're out on the open market. That would be incentive. The broader incentive, of course, is just helping this whole industry. But largely that doesn't drive a lot of dollars, you know, because it's too broad and washed out. We all want it, but nobody throws, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars at things like that. What they do, though, is if there's a part where they can self-serve and say, look, we have access to 200, 300, 400 people every quarter, every year that are coming out of this program, and we can go in and we can interview them. It's like when corporates come to college campuses. Why do they do that? They want first access, right? They want to get to those smart students well before anybody else, and they'll pay the money to send recruiters on campus. It'd be the same thing. That's what I think would be the biggest incentive to move quickly.
Okay, and by access, I wanted to understand, did you mean also while they're in the process of being trained, or when they're finished, once they've earned their certificate?
Both, because you might find a superstar that you want, and you know, if you're smart, you really engage them, right? So that you make sure they know all about what, you know, you're looking for in that position and your company and the great reasons why they would want to join. You want it to be so when they graduate, they've already made their decision, right? And again, it's no different than college recruiting, right? You go there and you want them at graduation to say, oh, I'm already joining this company. I've got an offer. So yeah, you don't waste time. You see somebody good, you don't say, you know, hang out, I'll talk to you in, you know, 8 months. No, you bring them in. In fact, we do that with interns. We'll bring people in on internships while they're in school, just to say, yeah, come and just work 10 hours a week with us, you know, get in the culture, see what we're doing. We've done that with probably 15 people now, and have hired 3 or 4 of those folks, and the rest, the only reason they haven't hired is because they're still in school. So, you know, you get to know each other because it's a cultural fit, it's an educational fit, it's skill sets, you know, the whole thing. You want early access so that, you know, you give yourself an advantage, and you're willing to pay for that advantage. That comes in the form of sponsorship.
Thank you very much. So, Sebastian, did you have any thoughts on this?
No, just, you know, fully agree with what Skip said. We do the same internships, right? For anyone who we think would be a great fit. One thing is also that, you know, sometimes you realize they might not, they're actually not a great fit due to various reasons, right? Like company culture or, you know, like other things. So I think, you know, internships help you get in good talent early, but they also help you, you know, filter out maybe someone who would not be a great fit quite early.
So what do you, what are your thoughts on, or let me back up a moment. When I launched the program, I focused on practitioners actually doing the work. I wanted learners to have experience. For example, in quantum computing, scientists actually building the machines, right? And in cybersecurity was the same. I wanted individuals actually working in cybersecurity. But again, because my approach was to focus on the workforce, not necessarily on K through 12, for example. I wanted to make sure people in the workforce had access to free education. So I was inviting practitioners from all other companies. And I'm wondering, do you have any thoughts on different methods that maybe someone like me could have considered? Because I tried to I primarily focus on universities and large enterprises and startups, because obviously in quantum there's still in this, you know, in their early phases. Do you have any ideas or a different approach people, individuals like me, could consider in tackling this? Okay, if not, let's go ahead and transition to pillar 3 of the strategy, which is expand and enhance America's cyber workforce. So for this discussion, I'd like to focus on how to tap into new talent pools and strengthen the cyber workforce by helping, so that in order to improve the diversity in our cyber workforce, the nation's ever diversifying, the statistics clear on that, on those numbers. So I'm wondering if we can now discuss, you know, just from your own perspective, your own opinion, why do you believe it's important to have a diverse cybersecurity workforce, and also address what you believe some of the current challenges are as it relates to attracting and retaining diverse talent in this space. Thank you. Who would like to go first, please? Skip?
Happy to. I feel like I'm taking all the airtime here. Poor Ayan hasn't been able to get a word in edgewise as I just go, I'll answer that one too. You know, Sebastian, you guys take a break here. I got it. I'll speak quickly, and I know Ayan's probably got a ton, and Sebastian as well. So again, I think we need to look at it from a standpoint of what's the incentive for anyone to do anything, right? There's got to be some personal gain or some broader gain. That's it, right? Or of course, you know, to avoid something, but let's stay on the positive side. If you want diversity, then I say what you have to do is you have to market to the various diverse groups, and you have to be inclusive. You have to go to those groups and say, look, we need a ton of people in this business. We need everybody on deck. This is and the nice thing about cybersecurity is there is a broader, you know, national security component to it. You're doing good, right? In fact, I was on the line with one of our investors this morning, and he was asking me why I'm doing this. And I said, well, look, we want to build a company, and building a company is awesome, but building a company in this space is special because we feel like we are making a difference. We feel like we are able to do something that is of national interest, and you know, we look forward down the road. You know, this isn't Tinder for dogs, right? That's not what we're doing here. We're doing something we think is really meaningful. And I think with the diversity groups, I think you have ways to market to each group, and you're inclusive. And again, we need everybody in this. I also think of women that, like they say, there aren't enough women in STEM. Got to make it fun and interesting and inclusive. You got to make it inclusive so that everybody's welcome, you know, and that's cultural. In some cases, as you guys know, we got to open the door, because this is everybody's problem. This is not anybody's specific problem. Cyber breaches when you talk about ransomware. I mean, I was out on a trip to Arizona and I was playing golf, and the guy ran a series of law firms in Chicago, and he said, yeah, they ended up, we had to pay out like $3 million for ransomware. And that's just a random guy I met on the golf course, right? And so, and I said, well, you're going to get hit again. So again, the point being, this is everybody's problem. And by the way, if you don't think it is, and you think about like the MGM casinos get hit and Caesars and these guys, and they got $100 million of loss, that means prices go up for everybody. So it's going to affect everybody. And that's why I think we stay inclusive and we say, look, it doesn't matter which group, where you come from, who you are. It's all about, do you want to jump in and help? And this is a fun industry because you get to play defense, right? You get to, the bad thing is that they only have to be, the guys coming in only have to be right once. We got to be right all the time. But it's still very fun and it's very meaningful. I think you got to get that messaging across. So it's almost like, when you think about how the military recruits, and they have the ads and be part of us and help the nation and this sort of thing. It's almost like that, where, we welcome one, welcome all, because we need everyone as soon as possible.
Ayan?
100% agree. And Skip, I'll apologize. I am not fast enough with this unmute button. is my biggest problem over here. But also between you and Sebastian, you both sharing like key things, and I'm like, you guys have my talking points. This is great because all the viewpoints are coming from stakeholders like yourself. But in terms of the specifics as to how folks can look at bringing in diverse talent and the importance of it, just as noted in many times in this conversation, you want diversity for multiple reasons. You want to incentivize and show that there's diverse representation, so that way from an awareness perspective, you then have, children who are in school who can say like, oh, I see someone who looks like me that is in this field. Seeing, women astronauts or doctors or biologists or chemists, or even in the construction and architecture, if you show like that representation across the board, then somebody can find it really, I can see myself there because I see someone who looks like me. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is also highlighting what are the pathways in, where are the opportunities. Sometimes it could come through traditional education programs. Sometimes it could be as simple as a local community organization sharing that they have an event that's happening at a local library and somebody happens to see the flyer by happenstance or sees it on social media. The way we distribute and share information is vast, and it's just also a matter of how do we tap into the various communities. There are so many organizations that are also trying to tackle the diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility pipeline issue and trying to help create those partnerships and bridges where, because those groups have access to individuals from those communities, then the question becomes, okay, which from the employer side, whether it's government or industry, how can they then go and target? Are they targeting minority serving institutions, or are they going to community-based organizations that may also have relationships with faith-based organizations and institutions who can then just generally share the word to their constituents and say, this is how we're a part of the community. And if you're interested in know of a family member or a young person that's interested in an internship, an apprenticeship, or maybe even similar in government, we have a opportunity to provide tuition for and also paid summer internships for those that are interested in having cybersecurity careers through affiliated universities and colleges through the Cyber Scholarship for Service program. So that's an opportunity where it's like, if folks knew or aware of this type of free tuition and education, you are are in an institution, you get this tuition, and then you're also guaranteed training opportunities with summer internships, and hopefully with the goal and expectation that one would then become a government employee, do about a set number of years, and then potentially either stay in government or go to industry. There's also, there's so many different pathways. I think the question is more so similar to what's being shared and expressed, is that is there an intent and an interest to go get that talent? I've seen so many, and we've seen so many talent coming from even career changers, seeing nurses who have that triage mentality, and then they're able to go get their certifications, and then they're able to triage and solve a lot of problems, and have the communication skills as well to serve and on the front lines when it comes to an incident response, because they're already familiar with the construct of having to be a part of like that emergency response criteria. Then also hearing stories of, you know, folks in the customer service from like a former bartender, but because they know how to talk to folks, very great at creating like either educational programs or even social engineering programs, because they understand the psychology of how to talk to different people. So it's really interesting how sometimes you have different skill sets that are transferable, and those individuals may not realize it until someone else says, this is how your skill sets plus this education and training can then lead you into the field. So there's multiple opportunities, and this is where we're hoping that it's also looking at those in rural communities, right, and tribal communities. Folks that we typically don't think about that are there, and that also have a stake and also a perspective to share too. Seeing that, again, this goes back to diverse thoughts and experiences can also then support our national security apparatus. So it ends up being a win-win all around.
Thank you very much. Sebastian, would you like to add any thoughts to this?
Yeah. So one thing, you know, I've been doing for the past several years is actually selling diversity as one of the core strengths of our company, because we have a diverse workforce in the sense that, you know, we actually have people globally on almost all continents, I think, except for Australia and Antarctica. We have people from, you know, over 30 countries, and this helps a lot. We notice it when we perform a security assessment of a system. We realize that people with different backgrounds are going to be looking for slightly different things, and the findings that they report are complementary to each other and depend on whether someone has a, you know, maybe a trading background or a classical security background or a mathematics background or, you know, software development background. It really complements, and actually when we do a security assessment, we try to create as diverse as possible of a team to put on an assignment, because we know that the outcome will be better in those cases, right? So when it comes to diversity, you know, like we're strong proponents of it. And when it comes, you know, to how to get those diverse people into the space, we've actually been, you know, even sponsoring some education programs that have to do with, you know, bringing in and offering free education to participants that are preparing for cybersecurity and blockchain, right? So if someone wants to become, you know, an expert in this field, they go and take a free course with this particular education organization, and afterwards, you know, they get a fast track to interview with us, right? Or, you know, if we're convinced with their assignments, they might even get fewer interviews. So, and the cool thing is that the more disadvantaged someone is, the better they are at security somehow, because they've been life has hit them with so many things that they're so averse to risk, and they're, you know, always thinking about something that can go wrong. And that's exactly the mindset you need when you do a security assessment.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sebastian. That's yeah, that's very insightful. So I'd like to ask each of the panelists to, as we transition here towards the end, what advice would you give to an adult, well, to a working professional? It doesn't need to be an adult, I guess. A working age depends on where you are. But my question is, what advice would you give to an individual that's currently working, that's in the workforce, that would like to transition to cybersecurity today?
Want me to go first, Maëva?
Sure. Thank you, Skip.
I'm happy to. So it depends where they're transitioning from. It's one thing to transition from, say, a technical area into cybersecurity, or even a physical area into cybersecurity. But what I would say is that if they have the inclination, do it. In fact, I've met some younger folks that are getting degrees in cybersecurity or are thinking about it, and I said 100% do it. It's, you talk about those jobs that will be there in the future, whether it's AI related or cyber related. I think cybersecurity is extremely safe, no pun intended, as a career, right? Because essentially you're setting yourself up into something that, in my opinion, is only going to get worse. Because again, you think about, I mean, we had Chat GPT for 3 months and Worm GPT came out. And Worm GPT is on the dark web, and that's a way to use a Chat GPT mechanism to hack. In fact, it says right on the site, this is used for hacking. So every technology, it seems, that comes out that could do good, also at the same time is used for nefarious purposes, if at all possible. And AI is no different. And so there'll be nothing but more people needed, more technology needed to enhance cyber and move this into a state where we can feel at least that we're keeping up. I mean, you think about the budgets right now, cybersecurity is about a $6 trillion economy. And somebody did an estimate that all of the cyber defenses are around $500 billion. And so you've got a 30-to-1 ratio of assets and capabilities against, a paltry amount of how do we stay ahead. So to me, it's just an endless stream of a fantastic set of jobs that'll be here forever. So I love it. And I say, and how to do it, if you come from technology, you move into data science and AI and look at cyber. If you don't come from it, just start taking cyber courses. And even if you're doing, say, just network remediation and minuscule stuff, it's still a great start, because the career and all of the jobs that you can have as you move up that stream they'll be plentiful. So there'll be plenty of different types of things in cyber to do. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Skip. Sebastian, Ayan, who would like to go next?
I can go next. I would dare them to, even before considering fully quitting their job, just dip their toes. There's a bunch of bug bounty programs available where you can just start for fun. I actually know a lot of people who got into cybersecurity from being in totally different fields. Like some guy was a financial consultant, another guy was a carpenter. And they were just, after work, spending a few hours learning stuff until they got confident in it to do bug bounties. And then they started doing bug bounties on the weekends. And slowly they started earning more from cybersecurity than they did from their original job, at which point they just quit and went into cybersecurity full time. So there's even a way to do it without just jumping into cold water. You can just transition. And then you don't need to, you don't need to find out the hard way if you've got what it takes to be in this industry.
Thank you very much. Ayan, any advice?
Yeah, multiple. So as was mentioned earlier and correctly said, depends on where you are in your career, what path you're in. Also, if you're career transitioning, absolutely agree, maintain the day job. In fact, practice, learn, take classes on the side, build, the badges and, the certifications in your portfolio, and then also join communities that can also help advise you, get a mentor that will guide you and share with you what are some things to consider, either, you know, technical or non-technical, because there's also a need for program and project managers. We also need a lot of folks who have experience in acquisition, and helping navigate, you know, the needs to, like, you know, purchase certain tools and capabilities. Then there's also the compliance and auditing piece. So there's so many factors, in addition to like the hands-on keyboard aspect, that depending on your interest and your alignment, definitely looking for not only the types of training and courses that will help you get to the pathway that you're interested in, but also most importantly, the community that will ensure that you're getting connected to the right types of pipeline programs and opportunities to also improve your resume and know who to like network with in the community for a future job. I would say there are a number of resources that through the process of talking to multiple stakeholders, and including in government, and looking at what's out there, in addition to the National Cyber Workforce and Education Strategy, we have a couple of guide sheets, one for workers, educators, government, and employers. Feel free to go to whitehouse.gov/cyber workforce. Again, it's whitehouse.gov/cyber workforce. So you'll find a number of resources that link to a number of government resources, and also other resources that are available through industry, through academia, through those portals that will point you to places. So that's sort of an example that I would share. Also, for those employers that are interested in kind of getting a sense of, well, how do I get these partnerships that have been discussed on this call? We have a list of commitments, so then you can see how you can be a part of the cause and part of the action in terms of contributing and creating partnerships with institutions, with training programs, and helping increase that diversity pipeline too. So that's also another additional benefit of having all the pieces in that central website, whitehouse.gov/cyberworkforce.
Thank you very much, Ayan. I'm thrilled that you've mentioned something you probably were unaware. I got into cybersecurity because my boss said, wait a second, you're a scientist and you have engineering background, you can handle project management. You've done program management. So if you're not into bug hunting, there are plenty of other avenues to succeed in cybersecurity. So yeah, thank you for mentioning project management. So lastly, I'd like to ask if any of you have any final remarks. And as you share your final remarks, if you could touch on what are you most excited about the future of the cybersecurity workforce from your vantage point. Thank you.
Sure thing. I will say that I'm most excited that employers such as Skip and Sebastian see the value of the workforce and recognize that when you have great talent and diverse talent in-house, that not only are you creating amazing products, but you're also creating additional security and benefits to the consumers as well as general society writ large, that will greatly benefit, from the second and tertiary effects of having amazing talent. So it's really great to see, and it excites me seeing that there's investment interest equally in the people side of the house, just as much as it's always been technologies and processes. And the truth is, you can't deal with technologies and processes without people. So that's what really is exciting me that there's a groundswell of interest and a groundswell of great questions, like how do we do this? Like Maëva, as you ask like all these fantastic questions, how do we create partnerships? How do we share sustainability? How do we ensure like there's continued investment? So that is what we're very proud of and happy to continue pushing here through the Office of National Cyber Director, along with many many of our partners that are on the call here today, and also not on the call. So thank you for allowing us to have this conversation during this part of October's National Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Skip, Sebastian, who would like to go next, please?
Sebastian, go ahead. I've been taking all the airtime, so you go ahead.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to say is, as a closing statement, given that this has all been about education, anyone who wants to get into cybersecurity will have the opportunity to practice lifelong learning as a necessity, because this space is so dynamic and it's forever changing. It's a forever cat and mouse game between attacker and defender. Technologies change, the attackers get better, the defenders need to get better. So you're basically learning all your life how to defend against hackers and using different technologies. So if you're really into and you really believe in lifelong learning, this is one of the best fields that you can get into right now. Yeah. And I would also thank you for having me on this panel. It's been an amazing discussion.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sebastian. Skip, last but not least.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's exciting that we're even talking about this, because I think it's an absolute necessity, as I've said, and everybody's reiterated on the call. This is just getting worse. So we have to do everything we can to get the word out, to get people moving in this industry. Start young. I mean, if it was up to me, we'd be teaching AI in kindergarten, along with color blocks and other things, right? Let's get it in there. Let's get these kids. I mean, the young kids, they all have electronic devices anyway, right? So they have iPads and phones when they're 5. When my kids got phones, they were 14. We're like, oh my God, you're giving your child a phone. It's everybody. So the point is, they're all used to it. I think that's the longer term future. In the near term, again, I agree with Sebastian. This is an exciting field. It always changes. He's right. We continually see. I mean, again, the whole new set of AI vectors came on the scene 6 months ago. They weren't a thing before that. Now all the cyber companies are scrambling to figure out, how are we handling these? What are we doing to make sure that we're secure against them? Quantum computing will be here. That'll be a huge new set of attack vectors, right? Once encryption starts breaking and we see some of this go down, it's going to change everything. And it'll be something that I think a lot of people can take pride in knowing that you're making a difference. And that's the best part about it. And there are plenty of resources out there. Companies are hiring like crazy. Again, if you have any thoughts of a field that has a huge future, plenty of promotion capability, all the diversity you want in your job, because it's going to change every day, this is a great field. So anything we can do to help, count us in, Maëva.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sebastian, Ayan, Skip. A million thanks for the invitation to join this special session. I'm thrilled for just a breadth of knowledge that you've each shared based on your experiences. And again, a million thanks for your generosity and for your time. And to everyone, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Thank you so much.
Thank you.